You know that moment when your world tilts sideways and everything you thought you knew becomes a lie? When the floor drops out from under you and you're falling through space with nothing to grab onto. That's exactly what happened when Janet Rodriguez from HR handed me that manila envelope across her pristine glass desk on what started as an ordinary Tuesday morning in March. Organizational restructuring, she said with a smile that never reached her eyes, her perfectly manicured fingers drumming against the desk surface. We're all making sacrifices during these challenging times, Sophia. Inside that envelope was a new contract. Same job title, Senior Marketing Director. Same corner office with the motivational posters I'd hung up 3 years ago. Same crushing responsibilities that had me working until midnight most nights, surviving on energy drinks and pure determination. But the salary? Cut clean in half. From $89,000 to $42,500. I stared at those numbers until they blurred together, thinking maybe I'd misread a decimal point somewhere. Maybe this was some kind of administrative error, a typo that would be corrected with an embarrassed laugh and an apology. But no. The contract was pristine, legally formatted, and absolutely devastating. They wanted me to do the same job, managing a $3.2 million portfolio of clients, overseeing campaigns that kept their lights on, maintaining relationships I'd built over 6 years for half the money. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything, though God knows the temptation was there. I just sat there nodding like some kind of broken bobblehead while Janet explained how the company was right-sizing for optimal efficiency and how this was a temporary adjustment while we navigate market challenges. Her words felt like they were coming from underwater, distorted and surreal. Temporary, I repeated, testing the word. How temporary? Janet's smile flickered for just a moment. That's still being determined by corporate. Could be 6 months, could be 18 months. Depends on various market factors and performance metrics. Translation: we'll string you along until we find someone cheaper to replace you. I'll need some time to review this, I managed to say, my voice sounding foreign to my own ears, like someone else was speaking through me. Of course, Sophia, Janet said, already shuffling papers like our conversation was over, like she hadn't just detonated my entire financial future with a manila envelope. But we'll need your signed agreement by Friday. That's 3 days. 3 days to decide whether to accept financial devastation or lose my job entirely. Such generosity. I should probably introduce myself properly before the story goes any further. I'm Sophia Rodriguez. Yes, same last name as Janet from HR. Pure coincidence and a source of endless confusion at company holiday parties. I'm 34 years old. Divorced for 5 years now, no kids, but supporting my mom who's been battling lupus for the past 2 years. Her medication costs alone run about $800 a month, even with insurance. And until that soul-crushing conversation, I was the senior marketing director at Pinnacle Creative Solutions, a mid-sized advertising agency in downtown Phoenix that occupied 3 floors of a converted warehouse building with exposed brick walls and those industrial light fixtures that were supposed to make us feel creative and innovative. God, even thinking about it in past tense feels wrong. If you're reading this story, could you share it or leave a comment? I need to know someone else understands what it's like to have your entire career threatened by corporate greed disguised as market adjustments and optimization strategies. Anyway, Pinnacle. I started there 6 years ago as a junior account coordinator, fresh from my divorce and desperate for stability. The agency was smaller then, maybe 30 people total, working out of just 1 floor. We had a foosball table in the break room that actually got used, Friday afternoon beer cart rounds, and a CEO who knew everyone's name and asked about their weekends. Those were the golden days, though I didn't know it at the time. I was good at my job from day one. Really good. Within 8 months, I was managing major accounts. Within 2 years, I was promoted to marketing manager with a $15,000 raise and my own office. By year 4, I was senior marketing director with a team of 12 talented people and oversight of campaigns worth millions. I knew every client's brand voice like it was my own. I could tell you that Morrison Industries preferred bold, masculine imagery but responded poorly to anything that felt too aggressive. That Grandview Hotels wanted sophisticated elegance, but not pretentious luxury. That apex financial needed to project stability and trustworthiness while still feeling modern and accessible. These weren't just accounts to me. They were puzzles I solved every day, relationships I nurtured through late-night phone calls and emergency weekend meetings, success stories I built from the ground up with creativity, dedication, and more caffeine than any human should reasonably consume. When my ex-husband David decided he needed to find himself somewhere in Southeast Asia, spoiler alert, he found a 24-year-old backpacker named Rainbow and a passion for teaching yoga to tourists. My job became more than just a career. It was my anchor, my identity, my proof that I could survive anything life threw at me. The $89,000 salary let me afford mom's medications and physical therapy, still have enough left over for mortgage payments on the little 3-bedroom house I'd bought post-divorce, my fortress of solitude, as Carmen called it, and even the occasional girls' night with my sister when we'd drink too much wine and laugh about how much better our lives were without useless men in them. Life wasn't perfect, but it was stable, manageable.
Mine.
Then Meridian Holdings came along like a corporate hurricane, buying us out 18 months ago in what they called a strategic acquisition for accelerated growth. All the usual buzzwords that sound impressive in press releases until you realize they're just fancy ways of saying, we're going to gut this place for parts and squeeze every penny of profit out of the corpse. The CEO of Meridian, Harrison Webb, flew in from New York for the big announcement. He was everything you'd expect from a Harvard MBA with more money than empathy, perfectly pressed $3,000 suit, confidence that came from never having worried about paying rent, and the kind of firm handshake that said he'd learned about leadership from business books instead of actual experience. He stood in our main conference room, the one we'd always called the fishbowl because of its floor-to-ceiling glass walls, and delivered a presentation full of corporate speak about leveraging synergies and optimizing human capital deployment and creating scalable growth frameworks. I should have run right then. Should have updated my LinkedIn profile the moment he used the phrase human capital to describe the people who'd built this company with their blood, sweat, and weekend hours. But I didn't. Because I'm an optimist at heart, and because change seemed manageable when wrapped in professional PowerPoint slides and promises of exciting growth opportunities. I was an idiot. The changes started small and seemingly benign. New email signatures with the Meridian logo in corporate blue. Updated business cards with different fonts. Mandatory seminars on corporate culture alignment, where we sat in uncomfortable chairs and pretended to be excited about embracing our shared values. But my team stayed intact, my clients remained happy, and my paychecks kept arriving on schedule. I thought maybe we'd dodged the worst of it. Maybe Meridian would be different from the horror stories you hear about corporate acquisitions. Maybe we'd be the exception. God, I was naive. The first wave of layoffs happened exactly 6 months after the acquisition. Redundancies, Harrison's assistant called them in a company-wide email that arrived at 8 a.m. on a Thursday. 12 people gone in one day, their desks cleaned out by security, while the rest of us pretended to work and tried not to make eye contact with each other. The marketing department got hit hard. We lost 3 junior associates, bright, energetic kids who'd just graduated college and were full of ideas about social media strategies and viral campaigns.
Gone.
Our entire graphic design team, 5 people who'd created award-winning visuals for our biggest clients, also gone. Don't worry, my direct supervisor Craig Martinez assured me during an emergency meeting that afternoon. Craig was a good guy, caught between corporate demands and employee welfare, trying to make sense of decisions that came from spreadsheets instead of human understanding. You're too valuable to lose, Sophia. Your client retention rate is 94%. You brought in $3.2 million in new business last year alone. So I kept my head down and worked harder. My team shrank from 12 to 8 to 5, but somehow our client load stayed exactly the same. I was pulling 14-hour days, managing campaigns that should have required 3 times the staff, answering emails at 2 a.m. because there literally wasn't enough time during business hours to handle everything that needed handling. My breaking point should have been the night I fell asleep at my desk and woke up at 6 a.m. with keyboard marks pressed into my cheek like some kind of corporate stigmata. Or maybe it should have been when I had a full-blown panic attack in the second-floor bathroom during the Morrison Industries pitch and had to splash cold water on my face and practice breathing exercises before going back to present a $500,000 campaign like nothing had happened. But I kept going. Because what else was I supposed to do? Mom's medical bills weren't going to pay themselves with good intentions. The mortgage on my little house wasn't going to disappear because I was overworked. And despite everything, I still believed that hard work and loyalty meant something in the corporate world. God, I was so incredibly naive. The second wave of layoffs took my remaining team down to 3 people. Sarah Kim, my social media specialist who could make a brand go viral with nothing but creativity and determination. Marcus Webb, no relation to Harrison, thank God, our content writer who had a gift for making even the most boring corporate messaging sound engaging. And Priya Patel, who handled client communications and could somehow make sense of our increasingly chaotic project management system that involved 17 different software platforms and at least 3 spreadsheets that nobody fully understood. We're going to need everyone to step up and wear multiple hats, Craig told us in the emergency meeting afterward, looking like a man who hadn't slept in weeks. This is temporary while we assess our strategic needs going forward. Translation: we're going to work you to death while we figure out how to outsource your jobs to a company in Bangladesh that charges 50 cents an hour. That's when my phone started ringing. Headhunters calling at weird hours. Competitors who'd heard through the industry grapevine that good people were becoming available. Former colleagues who'd landed at other agencies and were building their own teams. Word gets around fast in the advertising world when talented people become desperate, and apparently, my reputation had survived Pinnacle's slow-motion corporate suicide. Jessica Park from Innovate Marketing called first, her voice warm and professional over the phone. Sophia, I've been following what's happening at Pinnacle through the industry newsletters. We're expanding our client services team, and I'd love to talk to you about joining us. We could really use someone with your expertise in enterprise account management. Then David Chen from Catalyst Creative, offering a senior role with significantly better work-life balance and competitive compensation that reflects your actual value to the organization. Finally, Rachel Thompson from Sterling and Associates called on a Friday afternoon when I was staying late, again, trying to catch up on the work that 3 people used to handle. Sophia, I know you're probably getting a lot of calls right now, but we've been tracking your work for years. The Grandview Hotels campaign you did last year? Pure genius. That Morrison Industries rebrand that increased their customer engagement by 340%? We still use it as a case study in our client presentations. We want to talk. Sterling and Associates. Pinnacle's biggest competitor and the agency that had been steadily stealing our clients for the past 2 years with better campaigns, better service, and apparently better treatment of their employees. I almost took one of those calls. Should have taken one of those calls. But Craig kept promising that things would stabilize once the transition period was complete. That Meridian was committed to the Phoenix office for the long term. That my dedication and exceptional performance wouldn't go unnoticed when it came time for promotions and salary adjustments. I believed him because I wanted to believe him. Because starting over at a new company felt overwhelming when I was already drowning in work 16 hours a day. Because sometimes it's easier to hope things will get better than to admit you're in an abusive relationship with your employer. The meeting with Janet happened on a Tuesday, one of my late days, when I typically stayed until 9 p.m. to catch up on all the work I couldn't finish during normal business hours because I was too busy putting out fires and managing crises that shouldn't have been my responsibility in the first place. Sophia, do you have a few minutes? Janet had appeared at my office door like some kind of corporate grim reaper, her smile bright and completely disconnected from her eyes. We need to discuss some exciting changes to your role. Exciting. The word should have been a red flag the size of Texas. We walked to her office in silence, past the empty desks where my former team members used to sit, past the motivational posters about teamwork and excellence that now felt like cruel jokes. Janet made small talk about the unseasonably warm weather while she pulled out a manila folder, the one with my name written in neat block letters across the tab. Professional executioner preparing her tools. As you know, Meridian has been conducting a comprehensive review of our operational structure across all acquired properties, she began, settling into her leather chair like she was about to deliver good news instead of professional assassination. We've identified some opportunities to optimize resource allocation across departments while maintaining service quality. Corporate speak for, "We're screwing you over and pretending it's a promotion." She slid the envelope across her glass desk with a flourish, like she was presenting me with a gift instead of a financial execution order. "We're restructuring your position to better align with our current market positioning and operational efficiency goals." I opened the envelope with hands that barely shook. Professional to the end, that's me. The new contract was 2 pages of legal language that boiled down to same job, same impossible responsibilities, same crushing workload, half the money, no choice. Take it or leave it. "I don't understand," I said, though I understood perfectly. Every word was crystal clear. My performance reviews have been excellent across all metrics. My client retention rate is industry-leading. I've exceeded every goal you've set for me, often by significant margins. Janet nodded sympathetically, like she genuinely cared about my confusion. "Absolutely, Sophia. Your work has been exceptional, which is exactly why we want to keep you on the team during this transition period. Your value to the organization is precisely why we're offering you this opportunity to continue in your current role." Opportunity. I repeated the word, tasting its bitterness. "You're calling a 50% pay cut an opportunity." "We're calling it a temporary adjustment during a challenging market period," Janet corrected smoothly. "Market conditions have required us to make difficult decisions across all levels of the organization." "What kind of temporary adjustment? And transition to what, exactly?" Janet shifted slightly in her chair, the first crack in her professional facade. "Meridian is consolidating marketing operations at our corporate headquarters in New York. This restructure will allow you to maintain your current role and responsibilities here in Phoenix while we evaluate long-term staffing needs and operational structures." There it was. The truth wrapped in corporate doublespeak like a poisoned gift. They were moving my job to New York and wanted me to train my replacement for half my salary while they figured out the most cost-effective way to eliminate my position entirely. "How long is this transition period?" I asked, keeping my voice level. Janet's smile flickered like a candle in the wind. "That's still being determined by the corporate strategy team. Could be anywhere from 6 months to 2 years, depending on various market factors and performance indicators." "And what happens at the end of this transition period?" "Well, that would depend on a number of variables: market conditions, client needs, operational efficiency metrics." "Will my job still exist at the end of this transition period?" Another flicker. "Sophia, I can't make predictions about future organizational structures. What I can tell you is that this restructure represents our commitment to maintaining operations in Phoenix while we navigate these challenging market conditions. And if I don't accept these terms, well, we'd certainly understand if you felt this wasn't the right fit for your career goals anymore. We'd provide a standard severance package and excellent references, of course." Standard severance. 2 weeks' pay for 6 years of my life, 6 years of 60-hour weeks, and sacrificed weekends and missed family dinners and panic attacks in bathroom stalls. I sat there for a moment, letting the full scope of their manipulation sink in like cold water. They couldn't legally fire me without cause. My performance record was too strong, my client relationships too valuable. So they were trying to force me to quit by making my job financially impossible. It was corporate warfare disguised as a business decision, cruelty wrapped in professional language. Pure evil with a smile and a business card. "I need to review this with my attorney," I said, standing up on legs that felt like they belonged to someone else. Janet's smile flickered again, more noticeably this time. "Of course, Sophia. I completely understand the need for due diligence. But I do need a signed agreement by Friday afternoon. We're moving quickly on the restructure and need to finalize staffing decisions so we can communicate with clients about any changes." Friday. 3 days. 3 business days, yes. I hope that's sufficient time for your review process. I walked back to my office in a daze, clutching that envelope like it was radioactive waste. My remaining team looked up as I passed, Sarah with her bright purple hair and collection of vintage band t-shirts, Marcus hunched over his laptop with his usual cup of coffee gone cold, Priya organizing client files with the methodical precision that made her indispensable. They knew something was wrong. In a company this small, bad news travels faster than good gossip. "Everything okay?" Sarah asked quietly when I paused by her desk. I forced a smile that felt like it might crack my face. "Just some paperwork to review. Nothing urgent." Lies come so easily when you're trying to protect people from the same devastation that's destroying you. I stayed late that night, not to work but to think. Sitting in my office with the lights dimmed, staring out at the Phoenix skyline and the lights of people heading home to their families, their normal lives, their jobs that paid them what they were worth.
6 years of my life.
6 years of 60-hour weeks, missed dinners, canceled plans, sacrificed relationships. 6 years of building something I was proud of, creating campaigns that won awards, nurturing client relationships that generated millions in revenue. And this was how it ended, with a salary cut disguised as an opportunity and a countdown clock ticking toward professional execution. My phone buzzed with a text from Mom. "Mija, how was your day?" Mine was good. "Dr. Peterson says the new medication is helping with the joint pain. The physical therapy is expensive, but worth it. Love you so much." I stared at that message for a long time, thinking about Mom's prescription costs that ran $800 a month even with insurance. Thinking about her doctor visits every 6 weeks at $200 a pop. Thinking about the physical therapy she needed 3 times a week, but could only afford once. Thinking about my mortgage payment and my car loan and the credit card debt I'd been slowly paying down. Thinking about how $42,500 a year wouldn't cover any of it. How I'd have to choose between Mom's medication and my mortgage payment. How everything I'd built since my divorce would crumble under the weight of corporate greed. That's when I remembered the business card tucked in my wallet. Rachel Thompson, Sterling and Associates. She'd given it to me at the Adobe Marketing Conference 3 months ago, back when I still thought loyalty meant something in corporate America, back when I believed that hard work would be rewarded instead of exploited. "Call me if you ever want to discuss opportunities," she'd said over cocktails in the hotel bar after her presentation on innovative client retention strategies. "Sterling's always looking for top talent and, frankly, we're tired of competing against you." Sterling and Associates. Pinnacle's biggest competitor. The agency that had been systematically stealing our clients for the past 2 years with better campaigns, better service, better results, and apparently better treatment of their employees. I pulled out my phone and dialed Rachel's number before I could talk myself out of it, before I could retreat into the comfortable misery of loyalty to people who'd rather destroy me than pay me what I was worth. "Rachel Thompson." She answered on the second ring, her voice crisp and professional even at 8 p.m. "Rachel, this is Sophia Rodriguez from Pinnacle Creative. We met at the Adobe conference a few months ago." Sophia. The warmth in her voice was immediate and genuine. "I was hoping I'd hear from you eventually. How are things at Pinnacle?" "Complicated," I said, which was the understatement of the century. "Are you still looking for someone with enterprise account experience?" There was a pause, and I could practically hear her smiling through the phone. "Are you available for coffee tomorrow morning? I think we need to talk in person." We met at Copper Star Coffee, a little independent place halfway between our offices that was always packed with freelancers typing furiously on laptops and startup founders having intense conversations about disrupting various industries. Rachel was already there when I arrived at 9 a.m., occupying a corner table with her laptop and what looked like half the menus spread out in front of her. "Sophia," she stood up, extending her hand with a grip that was firm and confident. "Thanks for calling. I have to admit, I've been hoping something like this would happen." "Something like what?" "You realizing that Pinnacle doesn't deserve you." I laughed, but it came out bitter and hollow. "Is it that obvious?" "Honey, everyone in the industry knows what Meridian's doing over there. They've gutted 3 agencies in the past 5 years using the exact same playbook. Acquire, downsize, offshore, repeat. It's like watching a nature documentary about corporate vultures." She gestured to the chair across from her.
"Sit."
"Tell me what happened."
So I did.
All of it. The acquisition that started with promises and ended with devastation. The layoffs that gutted my team while doubling my workload. The impossible hours that had me answering emails at 2 a.m. and having panic attacks in bathroom stalls. And finally, the salary cut that would force me to choose between my mother's medication and my mortgage payment. Rachel listened without interrupting, occasionally shaking her head or making notes on a legal pad. When I finished, she sat back in her chair and let out a long breath. 50% cut, she said, and there was genuine anger in her voice. Jesus, Sophia. That's not restructuring. That's corporate warfare. That's deliberate cruelty designed to force you out without paying severance. They're calling it a temporary adjustment while they transition operations to New York. Of course they are. And I bet they need you to stay just long enough to train your replacement and hand over all your client relationships. I nodded, feeling the familiar knot of anxiety tighten in my chest. Rachel sat forward, her expression intense. Sophia, how much do you know about Sterling and Associates? You're our biggest competitor. You've been systematically stealing our clients for the past 2 years. Your Think Different, Think Sterling campaign was brilliant marketing, by the way. Clean, memorable, effective.
She grinned.
Thank you. That campaign was actually inspired by some of your work, specifically the Grandview Hotel's rebrand you did last year. We've been studying your strategies and implementation methods for months. Should I be flattered or concerned about corporate espionage? Definitely flattered. Sophia, I'm going to be completely direct with you because I think you deserve honesty after the corporate doublespeak you've been dealing with. We've been trying to figure out how to recruit you from Pinnacle for over a year. Your client retention numbers are legendary in this industry. Your creative campaigns consistently outperform industry benchmarks by significant margins. And frankly, we're tired of competing against you. We'd rather have you on our team. So, you want to recruit me? I want to offer you a job. Right now, this morning, over coffee and overpriced pastries. She leaned forward, her voice becoming more animated. Senior Director of Client Strategy. $95,000 base salary, plus performance bonuses that could realistically push you over $120,000 in the first year. Full benefits package including health, dental, vision, and life insurance. For weeks paid vacation that you're actually encouraged to use. And a team of 8 experienced professionals to start, with budget approval to hire more as we expand. The numbers hit me like a physical blow. $95,000. More than I'd been making at Pinnacle before the cut. Almost 3 times what they were trying to force me to accept, with bonuses that could make it even more.
Why?
I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Why that much? Rachel pulled out her laptop and turned it toward me. On the screen was a detailed spreadsheet showing client acquisition costs, retention rates, revenue projections, and ROI calculations that made my marketing director heart sing with their precision and thoroughness. Because we did the math, she said, pointing to various numbers. If you bring even half your current client relationships with you to Sterling, we'll recoup your entire first-year salary and benefits in the first quarter. If you bring more than that... She pointed to a number at the bottom of the spreadsheet that made my eyes widen. We're looking at a 7-figure revenue increase in year 1. I stared at the numbers, my mind racing through possibilities and implications. You want me to bring Pinnacle's clients with me? I want you to be yourself. To do the work you're already doing, but for a company that values it appropriately and pays you what you're actually worth. Where your clients choose to take their business is entirely their decision based on service quality and results. It was a beautiful offer. Too beautiful. There had to be a catch, some hidden trap or legal complication that would make it impossible. What about non-compete agreements? Pinnacle will sue me into oblivion if I take clients with me. Rachel's smile was genuinely delighted. Already checked. We had our legal team review Pinnacle's standard employment contracts. They never made you sign a non-compete when you were promoted to director level. That was an oversight on their part. Meridian issued new contracts with non-compete clauses to recent hires, but they never bothered updating the legacy employees. Legal oversight that's going to cost them dearly. They'll still claim I'm stealing clients. Client relationships aren't property, Sophia. They're built on trust, performance, and results. If clients choose to work with you at your new company because they value the relationship and service quality you provide, that's their business decision. It's not theft, it's market forces. She closed her laptop and leaned back, studying my face. Look, I know this is a lot to process. It's a big decision that shouldn't be made lightly. Take the evening to think about it, talk it over with family or friends, whatever you need to do. But I need an answer by tomorrow afternoon. We want to announce you're hiring before Pinnacle can do any damage control or try to poison the well with clients. That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced around my little house, making pros and cons lists that always came out the same way. Stay at Pinnacle and accept financial ruin while training my replacement, or jump to Sterling and potentially save my career while destroying my former employer. When you put it like that, the choice seemed obvious. At 2 a.m., I gave up on sleep and called my sister Carmen. She answered on the third ring, her voice thick with sleep and concern. Sophia? It's 2 in the morning. Are you okay? Is Mom okay? They cut my salary in half, I said without preamble, the words tumbling out like water through a broken dam. Silence. Then, what? I told her everything. The acquisition that had slowly poisoned everything good about my job. The layoffs that had doubled my workload while cutting my support system. The impossible hours that were slowly killing me. And finally, the contract modification that would leave me unable to pay my bills while working myself to death. Those bastards, Carmen said when I finished, and there was genuine fury in her voice. They're trying to force you out without paying severance. It's corporate blackmail. I know. But I got a job offer from Sterling and Associates. Pinnacle's biggest competitor. How much? $95,000 base, plus bonuses that could push it over $120,000. Take it. It's not that simple, Carmen. If I take Pinnacle's clients with me, it could destroy the company entirely. People could lose their jobs. Sophia. Carmen's voice was firm, taking on the big sister tone she'd used when we were kids, and I was overthinking something obvious. Do you remember when David left you? Remember how you sat in my kitchen at 3 a.m. crying because you thought your life was over? And what did I tell you? I smiled despite everything, despite the fear and uncertainty and guilt. That I was stronger than I knew. Exactly. You rebuilt your entire life after that divorce. You took care of Mom when she got sick, and the medical bills started piling up. You've been carrying that company on your back for 2 years while they slowly destroyed everything around you. You don't owe them anything, Sophia. Not loyalty, not sacrifice, not one more day of your life. She paused, and I could hear her moving around, probably making coffee because she knew she wouldn't be getting back to sleep. Take the job, she said finally. Take it and don't look back. And when their clients follow you because you actually provide value instead of empty promises, smile and wave goodbye to the people who tried to destroy your life for their profit margins. She was right. I'd given Pinnacle everything I had, my time, my energy, my creativity, my loyalty. I'd sacrificed my health and my personal life and my peace of mind. And they'd repaid me with betrayal disguised as business necessity. I hung up and immediately called Rachel, not caring that it was 2:30 a.m. and she was probably asleep. Sophia, she answered on the second ring, alert and professional. Is everything okay? I'll take it, I said without preamble. When do I start? Monday morning, she said, and I could hear the grin in her voice. Welcome to Sterling and Associates, Sophia. This is going to be fun. Friday morning, I walked into Janet's office with my resignation letter printed on good stationery and signed with the expensive pen Carmen had given me for my promotion 3 years ago. Janet looked up from her computer with that same fake smile, already reaching for the folder containing my modified contract. Sophia, I was hoping you'd stop by this morning, ready to sign the restructure agreement and move forward with this exciting transition. I placed my resignation letter on her pristine glass desk instead, positioning it so she couldn't miss the heading. Actually, Janet, I'm giving my 2 weeks' notice. The smile melted off her face like makeup in the rain. Excuse me? I'm resigning from my position as Senior Marketing Director, effective 2 weeks from today. Janet stared at the letter like it was written in ancient hieroglyphs, her perfectly composed corporate facade cracking in real time. Sophia, I think there's been a misunderstanding. The salary adjustment is non-negotiable based on corporate directives, but we can certainly discuss other aspects of your compensation package. Performance bonuses, additional vacation time, professional development opportunities. There's no misunderstanding, Janet. I'm leaving Pinnacle. Where are you going? I smiled, and for the first time in months, it felt genuine. Sterling and Associates offer me a position as Senior Director of Client Strategy. The color drained from Janet's face like someone had pulled a plug. Our biggest competitor. Yes. Sophia, you can't do this. You have obligations to your clients, your team, the relationships you've built here. My obligation is to my own financial survival and professional growth, neither of which appears to be a priority for Pinnacle anymore. Janet's phone was already ringing, probably Craig, who'd been copied on my resignation email, or maybe Harrison Webb himself calling in from New York to manage their latest crisis. We can match their offer, Janet said desperately, her professional composure completely abandoned. Whatever Sterling is paying you, we'll match it. We'll exceed it. I laughed, and it felt good to laugh in that office for the first time in months. With what money, Janet? Yesterday, you couldn't afford to pay me $89,000 for work I've been doing successfully for years. Today, you can suddenly afford $95,000 plus bonuses. The restructure was perhaps premature. We can revisit the timeline, adjust the parameters. No, thank you. I've accepted Sterling's offer. I start Monday morning. I turned to leave, then paused at the door for one final moment. Oh, and Janet? You might want to update those employee retention statistics for the board meeting next month. They're about to get significantly worse. The next 2 weeks were a masterclass in corporate panic and damage control. Craig tried to convince me to stay by offering me Janet's job plus a $15,000 raise. Harrison Webb flew in from New York specifically to personally ask what it would take to change my mind, bringing a revised offer that included a promotion to VP of Marketing with a $110,000 salary and equity options. Too little, too late. Meanwhile, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Clients who'd heard through the industry grapevine that I was leaving wanted to know what would happen to their accounts. Vendors asking if they should redirect invoices and project communications. Industry contacts curious about the drama unfolding at Pinnacle and whether the rumors about Meridian's corporate gutting were true. I was professional in every conversation, following the script that Sterling's legal team had provided. Never badmouthed Pinnacle directly, never actively recruited anyone to follow me, never shared confidential information. But I also didn't lie when clients asked about my new position or expressed concerns about Pinnacle's recent service issues and staff turnover. Sophia, is it true you're leaving Pinnacle? Jennifer Walsh from Grandview Hotels called my direct line on Thursday of my first week. Yes, Jennifer. Friday is my last day. Where are you going? If you don't mind me asking. Sterling and Associates. I'll be heading up their client strategy division. There was a long pause. Then, Sophia, I have to be completely honest with you. Service has been slipping badly since all the layoffs started. Our account team changes every few months. The Morrison campaign rollout was a complete disaster. Missed deadlines, wrong target demographics, creative that looked like it was designed by someone who'd never seen our brand guidelines. We've been seriously considering making a change. I chose my words carefully. I'm sorry to hear about those service issues, Jennifer. That's certainly not the level of quality Grandview deserves. Would it be possible to set up a meeting with you at Sterling? Just to discuss our options and see what kind of service improvements might be available? And there it was. The question I'd been expecting and dreading. The moment when professional ethics collided with business reality and personal survival. Of course, Jennifer. I'd be happy to discuss how Sterling might be able to help address Grandview's marketing needs and service expectations. By Friday afternoon, I'd had similar conversations with 7 of my 10 largest clients. Word travels at light speed in the business world, especially when companies start imploding publicly and key personnel begin jumping ship. Morrison Industries was concerned about campaign continuity. Apex Financial wanted to know if their Q2 launch would be affected. Western Manufacturing was already asking pointed questions about Sterling's capabilities and pricing structure. My last day at Pinnacle was surreal in the way that significant endings often are. My replacement hadn't been hired yet. Apparently, finding someone qualified and willing to work for $42,500 was proving more challenging than Harrison's spreadsheets had predicted. My remaining team was in chaos, trying to manage accounts they barely understood with resources that existed more in theory than reality. "What are we supposed to do?" Sarah asked as I packed at my office, loading 6 years of awards, photos, and personal mementos into cardboard boxes. "Marcus is talking about quitting too. Priya's been crying in the bathroom every day this week. Everything's falling apart." I looked at her for a long moment, this talented, creative, hardworking person who deserved so much better than what Pinnacle was offering. "You do what's best for yourselves," I said carefully, mindful of the legal implications. "This company doesn't own you. Your careers and your financial well-being are your responsibility, not theirs." "Are you hiring at Sterling?" The question hung in the air between us, like a lifeline. Sarah was incredibly talented, with an intuitive understanding of social media dynamics that had saved more campaigns than I could count. She deserved better than this sinking ship. "Send me your resume," I said quietly, glancing around to make sure no one else could hear. "No promises, but Sterling is expanding their social media team, and they're looking for people with real experience and proven results." Her face lit up with the first genuine smile I'd seen from her in months. My goodbye email was professionally crafted and legally vetted. "Thank you for the opportunities. Best wishes for continued success." Standard corporate farewell language that revealed nothing and committed to less. But I also included my new contact information at Sterling for any clients, vendors, or professional contacts who might need continuity during this transition period. Monday morning at Sterling and Associates felt like stepping through a portal into a parallel universe where companies actually valued their employees. My new office had windows, actual floor-to-ceiling windows with natural light and a view of something other than a brick wall. There were plants that someone actually watered. The coffee was good. The office chairs were designed by someone who understood human anatomy. My assistant, Karen, was waiting with coffee, my first week's schedule, and a folder full of welcome materials. "Ms. Rodriguez," she said with genuine warmth, "welcome to Sterling. Rachel wants to see you when you're settled, and congratulations on the Grandview Hotels meeting this afternoon. Jennifer Walsh specifically requested you handle their account personally." Tuesday's meeting with Grandview went better than my most optimistic projections. Jennifer brought her entire marketing team, 5 people who spent 2 hours detailing their frustrations with Pinnacle's declining service quality, missed deadlines, and rotating account managers who never seemed to understand their brand or objectives. "We've been with Pinnacle for 4 years, Jennifer explained during the presentation. "Sophia built our entire brand strategy from the ground up. But since the acquisition, it's been disaster after disaster. Different people every few months, campaigns that miss the mark completely, creative work that looks like it was outsourced to the lowest bidder." By the end of the meeting, they'd signed a letter of intent to transfer their $400,000 annual account to Sterling, effective immediately. Wednesday brought Morrison Industries. The CEO, Robert Morrison, was blunt in his assessment. "Sophia, you saved our company's reputation with that crisis management campaign 2 years ago. Since then, service has gone to hell. We want to work with you, not whatever revolving door of account managers Pinnacle keeps throwing at us." Thursday was Apex Financial, whose CFO opened the meeting by saying, "We follow talent, not agencies. If you're here, this is where we want to be." Friday brought a conference call with 3 smaller clients who'd somehow coordinated their schedules to discuss transitioning their marketing partnerships to maintain service continuity. By the end of my first week at Sterling, we'd signed letters of intent worth $2.1 million in transferred business. My phone was ringing constantly with former Pinnacle clients, vendors wanting to establish relationships, and industry contacts congratulating me on my move. Harrison Webb called Friday afternoon as I was reviewing campaign proposals for my new clients. "Sophia," he said without preamble, his Harvard MBA confidence replaced by barely controlled fury. "We need to talk." "Hello, Harrison. How can I help you?" "You know exactly how you can help me. Call off your dogs." "I'm sorry, I don't understand what you're referring to." "Don't play dumb with me. 5 major clients have terminated their contracts with us in the past week. All of them citing service concerns, and all of them moving to Sterling. That's not a coincidence." I kept my voice level and professional. Clients make their own decisions about vendor relationships based on service quality and results. If they're expressing concerns about Pinnacle service, cut the corporate bullshit, Sophia. You poached them. You violated your employment agreement and engaged in tortious interference with our client relationships. Harrison, are you recording this call? Silence. Because if you're not, you should know that I am on the advice of Sterling's legal counsel. And what you're describing, clients choosing to leave due to service issues and relationship preferences, isn't poaching. It's market consequences for business decisions. You signed a non-disclosure agreement when you left. Client relationships are proprietary information. I actually laughed out loud. Really, Harrison? Are you going to argue in court that a client's decision to work with me at my new company somehow violates trade secrets? That professional relationships I built over 6 years of excellent service are somehow Pinnacle's intellectual property. We have documentation of your communications with clients during your notice period. You mean the professional conversations where I answered their questions about account transitions and provided my new contact information for business continuity? The conversations that were entirely within my rights as a departing employee handling client communications. More silence. Harrison, here's what actually happened, and you know it as well as I do. You bought a successful agency, systematically destroyed its culture and capabilities, tried to force your most valuable employee to work for half her salary, and when she refused and left for a competitor, your clients followed her because she'd been the only thing holding their accounts together for the past 2 years. We're prepared to file suit against both you and Sterling for tortious interference and violation of fiduciary duties. Please do. I'm sure your legal team will love explaining to a judge why cutting my salary in half while doubling my workload was a sound business decision, and why clients choosing better service from a more competent agency constitutes illegal interference rather than natural market forces. He hung up without another word. That afternoon, Rachel knocked on my office door, grinning like someone who'd just won the lottery. "How are you settling in?" she asked. "Great, actually. Although I think Harrison Webb wants to have me assassinated." She laughed. "He called our legal department this morning, threatening to sue us for stealing his clients. Our lawyers told him that client relationships aren't property and suggested he focus on improving his service quality instead of harassing former employees." "Any actual legal risk?" "None whatsoever. You haven't violated any agreements, you haven't shared confidential information, and client relationships aren't intellectual property. Plus, our legal team did some research into Meridian's acquisition practices after Harrison's call. Turns out they've pulled this exact same stunt at 4 other agencies in the past 3 years. There's actually a class action lawsuit brewing in California from employees who were forced out through similar salary manipulation tactics." She sat down across from my desk, her expression becoming more serious. "Sophia, I want you to know how impressed everyone here is with your first week. The client transitions have been flawless, your integration with the team has been seamless, and frankly, you've already exceeded our most optimistic revenue projections." "Thank you. It feels incredible to work somewhere that actually values results over politics. Speaking of which, I have some news. The partners met this morning, and we'd like to offer you a promotion." I blinked in surprise. It's been exactly 1 week. And in that week, you've brought in more new business than our previous senior director managed in 8 months. The partners are unanimous. We want to create a new position specifically for you. Vice President of Client Strategy. $125,000 base salary, plus equity options, plus a $15,000 signing bonus to reflect your immediate impact on our bottom line. The number hit me like a physical force. In 1 week, I'd gone from facing a 50% pay cut to earning 40% more than I'd ever made in my life. "There's one condition," Rachel continued. We want you to build out the entire client strategy division from scratch. Hire your own team, develop your own processes, create the department structure that makes sense for the kind of results you produce. How big a team are we talking about? Whatever you need to be successful. We're thinking 15 to 20 people to start, with room for aggressive growth as we bring in more business. I thought about Sarah, still trapped at Pinnacle trying to manage social media campaigns with no budget and no support. About Marcus, whose writing talents were being wasted on emergency damage control instead of creative campaigns. About Priya, who deserved so much better than watching her career stagnate at a company that was systematically destroying itself. I accept, I said without hesitation. And I know exactly who I want to hire first. 6 months later, Sterling's client strategy division employed 22 talented professionals, including Sarah, Marcus, and Priya, who'd all followed me from Pinnacle along with several other refugees from Meridian's corporate destruction. We'd brought in $8.3 million in new business, mostly from companies fleeing other Meridian acquisitions once word spread about their business practices. My team was happy, well compensated, and producing the best work of their careers. We had actual budgets for campaigns, reasonable deadlines that allowed for quality work, and a management structure that rewarded results instead of punishing success. Pinnacle Creative Solutions closed its Phoenix office exactly 8 months after I left. The remaining staff was offered relocation packages to New York at reduced salaries, naturally, or severance packages that amounted to 2 weeks' pay, regardless of tenure. Most took the severance and started looking for jobs at agencies that weren't systematically destroying themselves. Craig Martinez called me the day they announced the closure. Sophia, I owe you a massive apology. You were right about everything, the acquisition, the layoffs, the salary cuts, all of it. I should have supported you instead of delivering corporate talking points. How are you doing? I asked, genuinely concerned. Craig was a good person who'd been caught between impossible corporate demands and employee welfare. Unemployed, but honestly, relieved. That place had become toxic in ways I didn't even recognize until I was out of it. I should have left when you did instead of trying to make a sinking ship float. Are you looking for work? We might have an opening for an experienced account director who actually understands client service. He laughed, and I could hear the genuine surprise in his voice. You'd hire me after everything that happened? After I basically delivered your professional execution order? Craig, you were caught between corporate greed and employee loyalty. That's not your fault. That's a systemic problem with companies that treat people like disposable resources. Besides, I know you're excellent at what you do when you're allowed to actually do it. He started at Sterling the following month as Director of Account Services, bringing with him 3 major clients who'd been looking for an excuse to leave Meridian's network of acquired agencies. Harrison Webb left Meridian 8 months later, citing strategic differences with the board of directors. Word around the industry was that the Pinnacle acquisition had been such a comprehensive disaster that it triggered a full audit of all his previous deals. Turned out there was a clear pattern: overpay for successful agencies, gut their talent and culture, wonder why clients and revenue disappear, then blame market conditions instead of management incompetence. He's currently between positions, which is corporate speak for unemployable after destroying multiple companies through spectacular mismanagement. Last month, I ran into Janet Rodriguez at a Starbucks near my old office. She was dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, no longer the polished HR executive I remembered from that devastating Tuesday morning. Sophia, she said, looking genuinely pleased to see me. I heard about your promotion to Senior VP. Congratulations. You deserve every bit of success you're having.
Thank you, Janet.
How are you doing? Consulting work mostly, helping small businesses with HR compliance. It's actually more fulfilling than corporate work. She paused, looking uncomfortable. Meridian laid off the entire Phoenix HR team when they closed the office. Turns out loyalty to corporate decisions doesn't protect you when those decisions destroy the company. I'm sorry that happened to you. Don't be. I deserved it. She looked directly at me, her expression serious. Sophia, I owe you a sincere apology. What we did to you is unconscionable. I knew it was wrong when I handed you that contract, but I was following orders and protecting my own position. Following orders, I repeated, letting the phrase hang in the air between us. She nodded, looking ashamed. I know how that sounds. It's the excuse people use when they participate in systems that hurt others to save themselves. I had a mortgage, kids in college, all the usual justifications. But that doesn't make it right. No, I said simply. It doesn't. We stood there in awkward silence for a moment, two people on different sides of a corporate catastrophe that had changed both our lives in dramatically different ways. For what it's worth, Janet said finally, I'm genuinely glad it worked out for you. You deserved so much better than what we offered, and I'm glad you were smart enough to recognize that and strong enough to do something about it. Yes, I agreed. I did deserve better, and I'm glad I finally realized that. It's been 18 months now since that conversation in Janet's office, since that manila envelope that almost destroyed my financial future and professional identity. I'm still at Sterling, now as Senior Vice President of Client Strategy, with a department that generates about 35% of the company's total revenue. I make more money than I ever dreamed possible. My base salary alone is $140,000, and with bonuses, I cleared $180,000 last year. I work reasonable hours with people who respect my expertise and value my contributions. I haven't had a single panic attack, stress-induced illness, or bathroom breakdown since leaving Pinnacle. Most importantly, I learned something fundamental about my own worth and the power of refusing to accept less than you deserve. For years, I let Pinnacle define my value based on what they were willing to pay me. I accepted increased responsibilities without commensurate compensation because I was grateful for the opportunity. I worked myself into the ground because I thought loyalty and dedication would eventually be rewarded. I was wrong about all of it. Your worth isn't determined by what your current employer is willing to pay you. It's determined by what the market will bear, what your skills actually contribute to business success, and most importantly, what you're willing to accept. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to your career is having a company treat you so badly that you finally realize you deserve better. The phone call that changed everything wasn't the one I made to Rachel Thompson, though that was certainly important. The real call that changed everything was the internal call I made to myself. The moment I stopped accepting less than I was worth and started demanding what I deserved. If you're reading this and you're in a similar situation, if your company is cutting your salary while increasing your workload, if they're asking you to accept less while demanding more, if they're treating you like you should be grateful for whatever scraps they throw your way, know this: you have options. You have value. You have power. And sometimes the best revenge isn't plotting against the people who wronged you. It's succeeding so spectacularly that their failure becomes inevitable by comparison. The beautiful irony is that if Pinnacle had just treated me fairly, if they'd maintained my salary and respected my contributions instead of trying to exploit my loyalty, I probably would have stayed. I would have helped them weather Meridian's corporate restructuring. I would have used my client relationships and industry expertise to keep the company profitable during the transition. Instead, their greed cost them everything. Every client I took with me to Sterling. Every talented employee who followed me out the door. Every dollar of revenue that walked away because they thought they could replace relationships with spreadsheets and loyalty with fear. In the end, that one phone call didn't just change my life. It changed theirs too. They just didn't realize it until it was far too late to matter. If this story resonated with you, please share it with anyone who might be struggling with similar workplace issues. Sometimes we all need a reminder that we're worth more than we're being told, and that taking control of our professional destiny is not just possible, it's necessary.